Okay, I don't know if it's rolling or not. Seems like it. The button is red, but I didn't hear the ding. We are rolling forward in our study in the life of Jesus. We're in a section in the Gospels where Jesus is doing a lot of teaching, specifically about the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, and he has told a few parables. We're going to look at a few more this morning. He has used the illustration of the sower. He scatters the seed on a variety of different soils, and there's different results. He tells a parable of growing seed. He tells a parable about mustard seed, about yeast in the flour. All of those have a specific lesson about the kingdom, that it grows, it transforms things, it expands, it produces fruit, all important truth about the kingdom that a lot of people during Jesus's ministry would not have necessarily understood. The perspective is that God's kingdom is us and that's it, period. But Jesus shows that it is an ever-expanding thing and that it includes a variety of people more than anyone would think, which is really kind of continues in the next couple of parables we'll look at this morning. So in Matthew chapter 13, that's where we're going to be this morning, at least initially. As Jesus tells these parables, really all of the ones that we looked at last time and the ones we'll talk about this time, there's some interesting repetition that I didn't realize until this week. In chapter 13, as he goes through all of the parables, he keeps using the word that's translated in English, good. The Greek word is kalos, K-A-L-O-S. Kalos sometimes is translated genuine, or precious, or excellent, or beautiful. Up in 13:8, he talks about good soil. In verse 24, he talks about good seed. And then what we'll see is in verse 45 and verse 48, he talks about a good pearl and good fish. So I hadn't ever made that connection until preparing for today, that sort of like the underscored, highlighted word in talking about the kingdom of heaven is that what is being sought and what is being planted and whatever the main thing is that it is this kalos, good, precious, excellent, beautiful, genuine, and maybe those other words give you a little bit better sense of how important each one of these things is. That it is excellent soil, it's a beautiful pearl, it's precious seed, it's beautiful, valuable fish. Jesus is not just comparing the kingdom of God to any old thing, but he sort of highlights the importance of it, the priority of it, by using this word over and over again. We're looking for good, the excellent, the authentic article, the real deal. It's beautiful. It's absolutely the best and the most of everything. I'd never seen that before, and I feel like that's important. In verse 44 is the next parable we'll talk about here in this section of kingdom parables. Verse 44 says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field." Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. And I think both of those quick little parables, they're almost one-liners, show the crowds and all of us, hopefully, how incredibly valuable the kingdom really is. Okay, in the first parable, it's like a treasure that a guy finds in a field. And so when he finds it, after he's discovered it, he goes and hides it, and then he goes and gets whatever money he can scrounge up to buy that field where the treasure is. So the treasure is so great that any amount of money that he will have to borrow or beg or scrounge up from the couch cushions to buy this property is going to be absolutely worth it. Then in the second parable, it's a pearl of extremely high value. I hate to call it a pearl of great price because there may be other works here in Utah that may confuse you. It is a pearl of extremely high value.
Yes, I understand.
And you wonder where they got it.
The man is looking for nice pearls, for good pearls. He's going to make a necklace. He's going to give it to his wife. I don't know what he's going to do. AJ has started wearing pearls. I don't know why. Apparently he thinks he's a grandmother, but he finds, in his search, he finds one pearl that is so extravagantly, gorgeously beautiful that he goes to sell everything that he can so he can buy that one pearl. You don't know this because I didn't know this. The Greek word for pearl is margarites. So you know anybody named Margaret or Margarita? It really means pearl.
When you order a margarita,
70% of Lynn's family.
Yeah. That's where my mind went to margarita.
I believe the Greek pearl came along long before the margarita.
So which verse are you in?
They were probably
45,
looking for
46.
margarita after pearl.
Verse 45, the merchant looking for fine pearls.
I see it.
When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Because it was so precious and excellent and beautiful, he had to have it. Exquisite will also work. It is a rare find. And that's what Jesus says, that the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, is of surpassing greatness and value, like this treasure in the field, or like this exceptional pearl. It is of ultimate value. It is worth every penny. Whatever the expense may need to be, it is absolutely worth it. It is of such incredible value. So get it at any cost and at all costs. Now that's a lot of information packed into those two little one-liners. It's like a hidden treasure in a field. It's like an incredible pearl. Do whatever you can to lay hold of it. It will be worth every penny.
So what are we laying hold of? What's the pearl and what's the
kingdom of God?
Kingdom of God.
A relationship with God. It is the most important thing. It is the most valuable thing. So once you discover it, it's worth anything that you can, anything you have to give or have to do. No commentary, huh? Everybody's satisfied with that?
Yes. You would do anything to obtain it.
Of course, if you throw in the perspective, there may be other people wanting to do the same thing.
Yeah,
It's a bottomless margarita.
yeah.
I mean, he's talking about one guy buying the pearl. What if there's a whole bunch of people wanting that same pearl?
Oh, the same pearl. Now you're making it hard.
Well, now you're mixing the metaphors.
Now you're having an auction.
Robert stuck on margarita. Wouldn't you feel?
Well, it's just,
I used to have this vision sitting at the bar with all the margarita.
You all have gotten the illustration and missed the point.
Oh, no, I know.
All right, so the next piece in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, at least in the chronological study Bible, the next thing that they put is a trip that Jesus takes across the Sea of Galilee over to the east shore. I'll pass this around. So there's a picture of a little map of the Sea of Galilee on one side, and then on the back are the fish species that live in the Sea of Galilee. I was gonna wear my "I sailed the Sea of Galilee" shirt today. I thought that last night, and I totally forgot this morning I was getting dressed. Because there's not so many times I can wear a Sea of Galilee shirt. So anyway, I'll just kind of pass that around. We're looking for it's not really it's not really identified on this map because nobody's exactly sure where it is. But the story that we're looking at next is going to be along this coast somewhere on the east coast, over on the Syrian side of the lake. So I'll just pass it around. The Sea of Galilee, you may or may not know, is the lowest in elevation freshwater lake on the planet. It is the second lowest body of water on the planet, second only to the Dead Sea that it empties into. It is about 13 miles long and about 8 miles across at the widest part. It's something like 33 miles around, and has a surface area of like 64 square miles. It's a pretty good sized lake. I didn't look, probably I could have compared it to Bear Lake. Seems like it would be sort of similar-ish, but it's about 140 feet deep in the deepest parts, so it's pretty deep for the lake, and it is all fresh water, and it was cool when I was in it.
It's fresh water, yet they call it a sea.
Well, it's bigger than your usual pond. It's probably not as big as the Great Lakes, so yeah.
What is its elevation, out of curiosity?
I did know. It might actually say it on the map, maybe. I don't know. It is. I believe that it is approaching sea level because the Dead Sea is below sea level. So.
Just short of 700 feet below sea level. 695.8.
So we wouldn't have to wear oxygen.
Probably not.
And if a ship is on the sea, and that's sea level, then we wouldn't have to wear oxygen on a cruise either. Right?
I have no idea. That's between you and your pulmonologist.
They said the lower I go. the less they have to wear.
Wow.
I'll go live on a cruise ship.
Including
Planning to move?
including the
Yeah.
hotter regions, is there more oxygen there? I mean, the fire's burning, right?
Get out.
So the backside of that has the fish on there. There's 7 or 8 different kinds. There's probably more than that are available in the Sea of Galilee, but they catch them all with a drag net. It's a big circle net. They throw it off on the side of the boat. The weights take the net down, and then they pull it in, and then they do whatever they're going to do with the fish. So there's no rods and reels. That's not how Peter and James and John would have made their living. It would have been nets. Which is really, I gave you all that information because the next parable that Jesus gives concerning the kingdom of heaven is that it is like a big fishing net. So it's a great big net that gets thrown out onto the water. It brings in all kinds of fish, and so they drag the net full of fish to the shore. They get it up on the shore, and then they start the sorting and the separating. Good one, bad one. Good one, bad one. Good one, bad one. There's fish that I would eat, and there's fish that I would not eat. Clearly, that was the case back then as well. Some of them were they were either too small, or they were injured or sick, or they were a bad species. They went into the burn pile.
Well, some of them are bottom feeders, and I would think that would make them unclean.
There are some catfish in there.
Yeah.
Catfish in the Sea of Galilee.
There's catfish everywhere.
Really?
Jesus says that picture of fishing with nets is just like the kingdom of God. He says that at the end, after everybody is all collected, that the angels will do sorting and separating. They're going to put the righteous people in one side, and they're going to put the wicked people are going to be tossed away for destruction. It's just that simple. There's going to be sorting, there's going to be a division at the end. You would like to be in the pile that's saved, not in the pile that is burned up. And he says to the crowd, "You all understand this?" The answer is, yeah, we get it. Like, well, I hope so. It seems pretty straightforward. There's a good bunch and there's a bad bunch. I mean, he uses the same image later on in Matthew 25. He calls them sheep and goats. The sheep are the ones who hear his voice and do all sorts of good things because they love him. The goats are collected and sent off for destruction because they haven't listened to Jesus, they haven't paid attention, they don't care, they've been oblivious, and so they'll be destroyed. Now, the interesting thing is that after he says, "Do you all get this?" We understand it. Then he says, he gives some hope. What is it that he says there? Let's see, verse 52. He said to them, "Therefore, every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of a storeroom new treasures as well as old." It feels like this is the first time where Jesus really sort of openly, overtly sort of throws a lifeline to the religious leaders. The word is scribe, teacher of the law. In Greek, it's grammateus. It's a religious teacher, an expert. And he says, for the first time, okay, you teachers of the law, if you'll become a disciple of the kingdom, then there is something good for you in store as well. We might have the idea that Jesus is automatically and only opposed to the religious leaders, but this verse right here seems to go against that. Hey, teachers of the law, if you'll become a disciple, there's good stuff ahead of you. Not only will you have all of these old treasures, but there will also be new treasures that you will have hold of as well. You're living clinging to the past, but if you'll just become a disciple, if you'll follow me, if you'll hear God's voice, there will be good things available for you that are new, what God really intends for your path. If we're going to go back to the previous parable, they can become a good fish, not just a trash fish. They can move into the good category and not just be thrown aside for destruction. So, if we're going to make some sort of general statement, there is room for anyone who will believe. If you'll just listen and you'll follow, there's hope. Nobody's too far gone. What do you think?
I think there's two piles, keeper and toss. This is a keeper, this is a toss.
Is there gonna be an in-between pile someplace?
I don't think so.
No, that's only on those shows where they clean out your house for you. There's the donate pile, the trash pile,
That's
the
right,
keep
donate.
pile.
So,
Okay.
just so I understand, the new and the old is blending the old scriptures with the new teachings of Jesus.
That's how I would understand it. They have treasured Moses' law
Right.
and living according to that code. And now, if they'll become a disciple,
It all comes together.
there are bigger, better blessings available than just that. They'll find something of much greater value.
Do you know if many did it?
I don't know if many did it. The indication from Scripture, sort of the general tone, seems like not many did. But there were some. Obviously, we've talked about Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea as being religious leaders who believed that Jesus was the Messiah. So we can't say it never happened, but we will say that it probably didn't happen very often, unfortunately.
Well, not only did they want it done away with, they ramped up the rest of Jerusalem to have
Sure.
it done away with. So I would say, yeah, it happened, but the minority.
Yet they were the smart people in the village. They were considered the smart people in the village. They had all this wisdom,
Well,
but they couldn't see just
forest
like
for
when,
the trees.
yeah, just
They-
like when we moved here.
They were incredibly well educated.
Yeah.
They knew it inside, outside, upside down, backwards and forwards. Application was the issue.
Would maybe the biggest difference, old to new, be system of works to system of grace?
Well, being a servant to the law or being a servant to the kingdom, however you want to describe that. I mean, the law was all about the things that you do and things you don't. You have to do this, you can never do that. And if you're going to be righteous, you have to get both of those called exactly right. The new kingdom, the revealed kingdom is nobody can do all of the good, nobody can avoid all of the bad, and so there is God's grace available to you. Accept this free gift. So
Well, the proof was, is nobody ever did get the law right.
That's the whole point, yeah.
That's why so many animals.
That's why they had to do the sacrifices every year.
Constantly.
and that brings this section of parables to a close. We've talked about, I don't know, half a dozen of them, something like that. And so now he's moving from the west side of the lake, sailing across with the disciples to the east side of the lake. And you may remember that he began this series of parables teaching from a boat. He's already on the water in the boat because there's too many people and they're getting too close. And so he gets into the boat and sets out a little bit so they don't, I don't know, so they don't crush him, so they can hear better, whatever.
So was that on the east side of Capernaum?
That was on the west side of the lake, someplace between the top and over on the left side of the lake. That's where all that teaching was taking place. And so now they're going to sail across the water to this other spot. But before they can get there, there is a big issue. So now we're in Matthew 8 and Mark 4 and Luke 8. We won't read through all of them. We'll go with Mark's version. So Mark 4:35. These accounts are pretty much the same. That day when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." Okay, so one of the other spots that we visited has it is a little museum that is set up around an archaeological discovery from the 80s. They found a almost totally intact fishing boat from the time of Jesus. You may remember, it was kind of a big deal, but it's made up of a variety of different kinds of lumber. It's, like bigger than this half of the room is long. It's pretty wide, but there's this whole little museum dedicated to this ancient fishing boat. Is it Jesus's fishing boat? Probably not. I suppose it could be, but it doesn't have to be. But it does they've reconstructed one from that model, and it's a nice sized boat. They could have got a lot of fish in there. They could have got all the disciples in there. There's plenty of room. And in the same area, there is a Catholic church that has it's at Magdala. It has 4 small little chapels on the side that each have to deal with something that happened in Magdala on the Sea of Galilee. And in the end is the large main chapel, and they have built a boat on the stage, and that's where the sermons are delivered from, is from this boat. It's really kind of a cool spot that overlooks the sea. I mean, it's really cool. So, you kind of get the idea that Jesus and the boys are in a John boat and they're rowing across. It's just a little dinky thing. It's actually a pretty good sized craft.
I always pictured a little boat.
Well, it fits better on the flannel graphs that way.
Oh, that's true.
So there, it's got a sail, there are some oars, there's a rudder, all that kind of stuff. But as they set out from one side of the lake to the other, this huge storm comes up. The text calls it a squall, at least the NIV. I don't know what a squall is because I don't live on the water. I'm not a sailor. A Navy guy might know what a squall is, but I'm not a Navy guy. This is not just a few waves and some wind. This is hairy, scary stuff. I mean, it's big, deep waves.
Like a tornado touchdown.
Angry black clouds, huge thunderstorm, gusts of wind, floods of rain. The waves are crashing over the side of the boat, which if it's a John boat, I mean, big whoop, that's like a foot tall wave. But these are big waves coming over the boat. It is chaotic. It's noisy. Everything is sort of topsy-turvy. And we should probably pay attention to the reaction of the disciples. About half of them grew up on the water as fishermen. They're probably younger guys, but they have a lot of experience on the water. These are as old salty dogs as they can be, in their 20s or something, okay? And what's their reaction? Oh my gosh, we're going to drown. Jesus, save us. Help. Don't you care that we're going to drown? Don't you care that we're going to die? The word is for destruction. Don't you care that we're about to be sunk? Because during this whole storm, Jesus is snoozing at the front of the boat, which is remarkable to me. I mean, I'm not sure I could sleep through it. Apparently, he is unconcerned about anything. He knows that the waves are not going to overtake him because he's the master of the sea, right? So they yell and scream and cry and shake him awake, and he gets up. In my movie, he stretches and yawns, and simply just says to the wind and the waves, "Shut it, knock it off." And immediately everything is calm. I mean, that's hard to do with CGI. That's hard. It's certainly impossible to do with real wind and waves, but Jesus just turns it off just like that. But then he has a couple of questions for the disciples. Why are you so afraid? Why are you so timid? Why would you think that our boat is going to sink if I'm in the boat? I don't know, I haven't really thought about that. It hadn't occurred to me to think that, the waves wouldn't drown us because you're in the boat. Why, after all this time, don't you have any faith? That's sort of the underlying thrust of the Acts question. After all this time, why are you still struggling to believe? Why don't you trust who I am? We've been through this, boys. You've seen everything I can do. You've seen the miracles. You've heard the messages. fellas, what's the deal?
Why didn't he pick smarter disciples? Or did he intentionally not?
Or we might have all been the same.
Well,
Well, that's
what
a
I'm
why,
wondering.
that's a why question. I didn't answer why questions.
Oh, all right.
Well, I had never thought about that half of these were fishermen. And why were they afraid? They fished every day in a boat.
They have seen a storm or two.
Yeah.
Could do so because they won't be running.
Right, they've seen them, they knew what they could do, so they didn't really get that far offshore, they seen the storm coming, they could get back. This time they were going all the way across and could,
Oh,
point of no
turning back.
return, the storm came so fast or whatever, that
4 miles from shore in any direction.
in any direct, yeah. They didn't,
Well, I could see that. We're stuck in the middle.
Well, the question at the end of that makes it seem like they're still not sure who he is.
It's kind of like you think you understand something, and then something happens. You go, well, I hadn't really thought about that. That never occurred to me. But this is, I suppose it's probably like lots of other things. Like when you become a spouse, when you get married, you think after a few years, you've got this kind of pretty well figured out, and then something comes along that's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Or you're a parent, you've got kids of whatever age, you've been through it all, you've seen it, and then all of a sudden something comes along, you go, I have no
where
clue.
did that come from?
Yeah, how in the world do I deal with that? I think it's kind of a similar thing. Yeah, Jesus is the master. He's the Messiah. He's the Son of God. Oh my gosh, he controls the wind and the ocean too? The thing that I wrote down about this is what was scarier to them. Because when Mark says, the translation would be, they were exceedingly frightened with great fear. I mean, that's a whole lot of scared. It's a lot of scared, they're frightened, and it's with a great fear. It's not just a little fear, it's a great big, fat, ugly, hairy, scary fear. But by the end of the account, when they see that everything went from to, they're also terrified.
Yeah.
Kind of like after Dad blows up and everybody's afraid to speak or move because, you don't know what he's really done yet. Everybody kind of toes the line. I wonder which one was scarier, the storm itself or the fact that Jesus had absolute control over the storm. But I think maybe the point of this circumstance, this occurrence, is that Jesus, their master, can bring peace in the middle of a raging storm. And I think that theme will carry into the next episode as well. Okay, so they sail across the water through the storm. Nobody dies, nobody drowns. I assume it's that they're all in one boat. Mark does say that there are other boats along with them, so maybe it's like this little, what's the word? I want flotilla. A little armada of fishing boats that are making their way, and they're all going to die, and they've lashed themselves to each other. Anyway, when they finally get to the other side, so they've gone. That is not going to be a helpful map. I don't care about the Romans. Almost ever. That's even worse. What this one? Hey, that'll do. Okay, so here's the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, the Jordan River up between the two. So they have sailed across to the east side, to the east bank, the Golan Heights, over on this side. And this whole region is called the Decapolis. It means 10 cities. There are 10 cities which are all very much the same because they are Greek-styled cities. From the time of Alexander on, they have had Greek language, Greek culture, Greek architecture, Greek everything. They are even sort of lumped together for political and governmental purposes as well. But Jesus hasn't really been to that side of the sea and hasn't done much traveling around in that region. So when they get there, Matthew, Mark, and Luke all have the same account. Really very much the same. There's a couple of subtle differences. In Matthew 8, verse 28, Mark 5, verse 1, and Luke 8, verse 29. And I'll just go through the account. Okay, so they are heading to a place that is referred to either as the Gadarenes or the Gerasenes or the Gergesenes. Again, there's not, on any map that I've seen, there's no firmly fixed location for this event. And the names are a little different, but they're all kind of sort of the same. It's the east shore of Galilee, and as they pull the boats up on the shore, Jesus and the disciples get out, and almost immediately they encounter a man. Mark and Luke say it's one guy. Matthew says it's two men. I don't know why Matthew does that. One of the commentators said, well, it could be because it takes two people to provide a reliable witness. So maybe that's why he says there's two. I don't know. Two for Matthew, one for each Matthew and Mark and Luke. I'm going to go with one man. He is naked. He is violent. He is so violent that he cannot be contained. They put irons on his feet and on his wrists. They wrap him in chains. They bind him up so he doesn't hurt anyone. And what does he do? He hulks out and breaks the chains. He lives out away from everybody else because he's crazy. He's possessed by evil spirits. And as we said in the last couple sessions, there's this view that evil spirits hang out in uninhabited places. Not many people are living in the cemetery. So that's where this guy is hanging out, either by choice or by popular opinion. So when Jesus and the disciples meet this man who is possessed by an evil spirit, the man immediately identifies Jesus as divine. What do you want with us, Son of God? Matthew, Mark, and Luke each have some variation on that sentence, but the root is the same. You're the Son of God, Jesus. Why are you here? What do you want to do with us? He hasn't been there before, but they know exactly who he is. It's interesting that the evil spirits know exactly who Jesus is, but people cannot figure it out. The evil spirits say, are you here before the end to torture us? Are you here to mess with us before final judgment? And obviously the answer is No, he's not there to torture them. But Jesus asked the spirit its name. Mark says in verse 9, when Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" he replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And in the movie version, that's when the voice sounds like, 1,000 voices, and it's really freaky because there are many different spirits there. A Roman legion, military-wise, was at least 6,000 men, almost 7,000 men. So this isn't just one evil spirit that's tormenting this one poor man. It is many, 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 many evil spirits. No wonder he has got supernatural strength and violence. He's just totally drenched and saturated in all of this demonic activity. How did he get that way? I don't know. It must not matter because Jesus doesn't tell us that. There are thousands of evil spirits, demons that are afflicting this man, and there's not much pussyfooting around here from the demons. They don't mince words like, "Hey, please don't send us out. Don't punish us." Luke says, "Don't send us into the abyss" in Luke 8:31. Matthew and Mark don't include that, but don't send us into the abyss. The abyss is the bottomless pit. It is the eventual home of all the dead, and it is the place where all the evil spirits, where all the demons will reside. When you get to the book of Revelation, this place is referred to many times, that there's a key and there's a chain, and that's where the creatures come out from. It's where things are being cast back into. It's the place of final judgment, essentially. So the demons know what is coming. They don't want to go there because they know that's it. Don't send us into the abyss. Hey, there's pigs over there. Allow us to leave this man and to go into this herd of pigs. The demons don't want to go to the abyss any more than we should want to. So, I've often wondered, why is it that there are herds of pigs here? Because pigs are unclean. If you're a Jew, you don't eat ham or bacon or sausage or a pork chop. That's an unclean animal. You never get to eat pork.
Aren't there Greek people there?
Yeah, that's the thing. This is a Greek region. These are Greek culture, and I'll tell you, some of the best pork I ever put in my mouth I ate in Greece. It was really yummy. They really like a good pig. I'm with them. So that's why there's all these pigs being raised on the side of this hill, because they're
Jewish territory.
there may be Jews involved, but this is Greek commerce and agriculture going on. So a couple thousand hogs are there on the side of the hill, eating everything that they can get their mouth on. Jesus allows the demons to go into the pigs. The pigs go crazy, rush back into the sea, and they drown. Just so you know, pigs are really good swimmers. I've seen it. But there's so much chaos, and it's so tumultuous and turbulent that they kind of trample each other, and the pigs all drown. As you might imagine, seeing your entire herd of livestock bobbing upside down in the lake is upsetting to the people who are herding the pigs. They rush back into town to tell everybody what has taken place. The townspeople come out to see what's going on. They've heard this crazy story. They want to see it for themselves. Not just that these pigs are dead, but the crazy man from the cemetery has been dispossessed of the evil spirits. They come out and see it, and their reaction is what?
Get out of here.
When those tending the pigs saw what had happened, they ran off, reported this to the town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. Then, when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone out, sitting at Jesus' feet, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people how the demons possessed him had been cured, how the demon-possessed man had been cured. Then all the people of the region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them because they were overcome with fear. So he got into the boat and left. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return home and tell how much God has done for you." So the man went away and told all over town how much Jesus had done for him.
So if the demons didn't want to end up in the inevitable final place, why did they not ever turn?
Well, I guess we'd have to say we don't know what happened to them after all the pigs drowned.
But I mean, they were afraid, please don't send us down. I mean, don't send us into the abyss. They don't want to go there. Why are they demons?
Why are they demons? Because, I don't know, because they are.
The abyss must be pretty bad if even the demons don't want to be there.
Well, there's a way not to get there.
Well, I don't know if there's a way not to get there if you're already a demon. I don't know. I mean, it is kind of interesting. This does kind of raise a couple of questions for me, like, is Jesus so full of compassion that he will even extend compassion to evil spirits? I mean, he could have said, "I don't care what you say, you know where you're going. Go."
You know,
Off to the abyss, and they're going. But he allows the pig possession instead. Why wouldn't he just...
It fits with his character.
It is totally in keeping with his character. But it is a why question.
And it
And
made it
for
very
most why questions, there's not a good answer.
Because maybe repentance is still hanging out.
made a very physical example to those watching.
The people of the town, all the country folks, everybody from the region hears about this. They come out and they first of all see, pigs bobbing in the water, washing up on the shore, and they see the lunatic calm with his clothes on, not foaming at the mouth, not trying to kill anybody, sitting calmly at Jesus' feet. And their reaction is, again, terror. They are gripped with fear. I'm like, well, why would that be? Well, I said, one of the commentators talked about the fact that there would have been instances of magicians, sorcerers, who have the ability to command evil spirits. And you know, magic is scary and creepy. They don't understand that this is not magic, that this is divine power. Or maybe they do. And, you know, maybe it's like the Jews in the Old Testament that said to Moses, don't let God speak to us anymore. We can't bear it. It's too overwhelming. You talk to us from God. Be our mediator. Maybe they realize that this is something really different and really special, and it is terrifying. If we were to see something like that, I'm pretty sure we would not necessarily just be happy and shouting and singing praises all the way home. I think there'd be a certain amount of, oh my word, what did we just witness?
Yeah, if you started doing all kinds of miracles around Roy and church and stuff, that's not normal.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. React.
Awestruck could be confused with fear too.
Awestruck, amazed, astounded, flabbergasted.
Plus, it's like, man, if he can do that to that guy,
What could he do to
what could
me?
he do to us?
Yeah.
And their response, based in fear and amazement, is, we're gonna need you to go. Can you just move on? Cause this is freaky. We don't understand it. It's gonna be best if you go. And so Jesus just gets back in the boat and sails away. It's like, so the whole point, you have this crazy storm on the sea, you have this encounter on the beach, and then you go home? It must be that both of those things were of significant importance enough to make the trip.
Yeah, he left a message.
Yeah, that was the first, what do you call it, missionary or
Yeah,
witness?
I think there's a couple things going on there. One, I think it's the same message on the shore as it is in the middle of the lake. That Jesus has the ability, because he is God, to bring peace in the midst of a storm. Whether it is an actual physical raging storm or a spiritual, emotional, mental storm, Jesus can bring peace. He calms everything down. And the other piece is that this formerly possessed guy really sort of is the first outpost for the good news. Can I come with you? Nah. Why don't you stay right here? Stay here with your people, and you just tell everybody, how do you say it? What God has done for you? Tell how much. Go back home, tell how much God has done for you. And then I think that's ironic. So the man went away and told all over town how much Jesus had done for him. Jesus is God.
He did the same thing with the lady at the well in Samaria. He told her who he was. She went back to the town and told everybody that when he was with Jews, he told them, don't tell anybody. Don't say who healed you.
You don't really know the long-term effect. You know, like human beings, we don't like change. I mean, somebody walked in
Right.
here and did some miracle, we'd all be in shock. And I mean,
Yes.
who knows what our first reaction would be? This is crazy, I don't believe it, am I dreaming? You know, would I have a coffee this morning? I mean, but then as time goes on and we reflect back on it, we begin to put more pieces to it, and we talk to each other, and we begin to see things from a different perspective. You don't really know all these people that he touched, this guy going back. 5 years from now, what would they really be thinking when they look back upon that and going, wow.
Plus, the specific thing about this guy, it's kind of like the woman at the well at Sidecar. The whole town knows exactly who this guy is. They know that he's the foaming at the mouth, swearing, spitting, screaming dude from the cemetery. His family knows where he's been. They, people that he was connected to, they've all experienced him possessed by this multitude of evil spirits. And they can say, yeah, he used to be that way, but then he met this teacher, Jesus, who cast out the demons. So even if they don't believe necessarily, their testimony is of a completely transformed life.
That's the message. That's the message you went there to read, I think.
And yet we're 2,000 years later, we're still talking about this.
Yeah.
That's also something to think about.
Jesus brings peace, no matter how big or how scary or how evil the situation might be. He brings peace of mind, peace of heart, peace of soul.
And showed mercy at the same time. Or it seems it did.
And that's all we have to say about that. So when we get together next week, same time, same place, same channel, we will pick up as Jesus heads back across the Sea of Galilee, back to the other side to perform some other impressive and amazing miracles as well. Okay? Any great realizations or takeaways that you gather from our time together this morning?
Did the disciples even get out of the boat? Or just Jesus?
I believe they did.
Jesus is capable of everything. Why would you put your trust in anything else?
Jesus is capable of everything.
And we have the benefit of 2,000 years of hindsight.
Well, it doesn't seem to make a difference to some people.
That's true. They're not getting smarter.
Okay then, well, as I said earlier, we're going to continue on through the rest of the summer, looking at the life of Jesus. So we'll pick up here next week on June the 6th at 10 a.m. We'll see you then.